So, I mean, like I said, it is complex. And I think another layer of it that's really essential is from a very young age. I forget exactly. Well, I remember one of the books. It's called A Million Miles in a Thousand Years. And it proposes living like, it begs the question, if certain elements make a great story in a book or in a movie, then why don't those elements also apply in our own lives? And so sort of this applying the elements of great story to our own life was something that impacted me from a very young age. And I started to look at my own life like, what is it I actually care to do? Like, what is it I want to live my life for? And so that sort of flips your thinking when you're a young person from a culture that inculcates us to be extrinsically motivated. It wants us to focus on that next raise we're going to get, that next job we're going to get, that next paycheck we're going to get. Why do you do your homework? To get a grade. Not because you want to learn, not because you love the content. You do it to get something, right? That's sort of put into our minds from a very young age. But when you flip the thinking and you look at your own life through like the story you care to like live and leave behind, both for yourself and for others, like that's all about what do I care about? It's not about what I get out of it. It's about what do I care to put into it? And so I think I was thinking from that frame of mind from a very young age, and that changes how you would approach something like this. It's like, I'm not just wanting to get to a minimum to get a paycheck. I want to push myself to do anything I dream of or care of doing where I can finish my life and be proud of myself. You know, to some degree, to arrive at a place where you feel like you are your own hero. And I think that's been a driving force in my own life to hold myself to that my own kind of standard in that regard. A standard that impresses me and, you know, by secondary nature of it, impresses others around me. The idea of just settling and sort of waking up 30 years later and being like, well, I guess I'm retiring now. That sort of idea just sounds hideous and awful to me.
Let me ask this. Life is all about opposition, and you went through a giant, life-changing moment when you got into a car accident. A lot of times things like that, people don't start working out or do any of these things because they're inside their own head a lot. So you had to get outside your head to decide to do all this. What suggestions would you give to people who they're so inside their head that they talk themselves out of doing just about everything?
That's a great question. I mean, self-talk and like personal narrative is so powerful. And I find so often people do create self-limiting beliefs where they believe certain things about themselves or certain things about the world or certain things about how others will look at them or react to them. And you just look and it's like they all pile in this specific direction to like demotivate action, to stop action. And I guess I've over time held a pretty hard standard toward myself of avoiding self-limiting belief. Like the moment I notice it, it's like I have to go the opposite direction. But I guess as far as getting out of your own head, I think, you look back on like Stoic philosophy and other philosophers, there's a lot of this sort of talk about what one might refer to as like meta thinking, sort of like getting outside yourself and taking on that third person perspective. So even if you're feeling an emotion, you're feeling powerless, you're feeling fear, you sort of step outside of yourself and you go, okay, I notice I'm feeling fear in this moment. That's okay. Okay, I feel fear. What do I still care to see my character do as I'm feeling this, right? So almost seeing yourself in that moment, playing out the moment. And I think practices like that give us some power. Because normally I say when you experience an emotion, you completely lose yourself to the emotion. Like when you're angry, you're just angry and you're acting like an angry person, as opposed to you feel the anger, you notice yourself feeling anger, and then you go, who do I care to be in this moment? What do I care to do with this emotion? And then that gives you that pause and thinking to sort of direct that next step, that next action in a more intentional way, as opposed to just sort of a habitual reactive way. And I think that can be a pretty powerful tool to start instilling that as a mental and emotional habit.
Does that